After the release of 2002's Panic Room, director David Fincher took a 5-year hiatus from feature films. But that doesn't mean he was sipping margaritas poolside for half a decade. He was hard at work, creating some of the highest profile and most controversial short-form work of his career. Fincher's 2002 spot for Adidas, Mechanical Legs, is a great little bit of advertising done in the classic Fincher visual style. High contrast lighting, a steely color palette, and a kinetic camera. The entire piece is a digital creation, featuring a pair of disembodied robot legs exhibiting superhuman agility and speed as they test out a new pair of Adidas sneakers. Fincher's flair for visual effects and dynamic compositions makes the spot effective, and, more importantly, memorable.
I'm thirsty. You want something?
If you're up.
I'm up. You want anything?
It's okay.
David, I'm in the kitchen. Can I get you anything?
What do you have?
Fincher's spot for Coca-Cola, the Arquettes, received a lot of airplay based on the popularity of the eponymous couple of the early 2000s, following Courtney's successful run on Friends, as well as their combined appearances in Wes Craven's Scream films. Fincher's hand is evident in the desaturated warm tones that favor slightly colder yellows instead of typical oranges, as well as the high contrast lighting. In 2004, Fincher was commissioned by Zolibri to realize a stunning concept called Beauty for Sale. The piece takes place in a futuristic world, filled with the imaginative production design and world building Fincher is known for, and bolstered by the visually arresting conceit of normal people wearing supermodel bodies as costumes, achieved through clever CGI and other visual effects. Fincher's 2005 spot for Heineken, Beer Run, stars his regular collaborator Brad Pitt as himself, adventurously trekking out into the urban night for a case of Heineken while avoiding the hordes of adoring fans and paparazzi. A green-yellow color cast is applied over the image, which accentuates the high contrast lighting and evokes not only the color branding of Heineken itself, but Fight Club's unique color palette as well. Fincher's only music video during this period was created for Nine Inch Nails' single Only. Fincher had already been associated with frontman Trent Reznor due to the inclusion of a remix of Reznor's Closer in the opening credits to Seven, but this is the first instance of the two men working together directly. Reznor would go on to become a regular composer for Fincher, beginning with The Social Network and continuing on to today. Interestingly, the video is presented in the square 4:3 aspect ratio, but the look is classic Fincher. High contrast lighting, a steely, sterile gray color palette, and a constantly moving camera that gives the simple concept a dose of electric energy. The concept serves Fincher's fascination with tech, with a Mac laptop acting as the centerpiece to this 21st century orchestra. CGI is used to inspire effect in incorporating sound waves on the surface of coffee, as well as conveying Reznor's face and performance via those needle art slabs that were popular during the era. There's a huge ethical debate about using CGI advancements to bring long-dead celebrities back to life. A debate that more or less began in 2007, when Fincher and Orville Redenbacher's had the audacity to bring Orville himself back from the dead to hawk some popcorn. Here, Fincher's familiarity with effects works against him, with his excitement at bringing dear old Orville back from the dead perhaps blinding him to the resulting uncanny valley effect. Reanimated is easily one of Fincher's most controversial videos, and for good reason. The main takeaway from this period of Fincher's career is that his experimentation with digital filmmaking technology would result in his overall confidence in the format and its future. His early adoption and utilization of digital filmmaking on a large scale would transform him into the poster boy for the nascent format. In the heady days before the Great Recession of 2008, specialty studio shingles like Paramount Vantage and Warner Independent thrived and flourished by betting big on bold artistic voices and collecting on the lucrative DVD market, as well as the windfall from award season prestige. The considerable financial backing required of these projects created an unsustainable bubble that would burst violently when the bottom fell out of the economy, forcing these quote-unquote indie divisions to shutter their doors, and pave the way for profit-positive blockbusters and compound franchises. Much like how the catastrophic failure of Michael Cimino's overindulgent Heaven's Gate killed a long run of director-centric classics at the end of the 1970s, so too did the excess and deregulation of the 2000s curtail the pop culture gains that independent films had been steadily making since the 90s. This short period saw the release of some of the most well-regarded films in recent history, films like No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, films like David Fincher's sixth feature, Zodiac.
Learn a lot.
Hello? Hello, this is Melvin Belli. Who am I speaking with?
This is the Zodiac speaking.
Is there something I can call you that's a little less ominous?
Sam.
Sam.
Zodiac's journey to the screen was a long, arduous one, much like the real-life investigation itself. The creative breakthrough came when writer James Vanderbilt based his script off Robert Graysmith's book of the same name. From Graysmith's template, Vanderbilt fashioned a huge tome of a screenplay that was then sent to Fincher, essentially out of respect for his exemplary work with the serial killer genre trappings in Seven. But they expected him to pass because of the similarities between the two works. To their surprise, Fincher responded with interest, and furthermore, he had a special connection to the material. He remembered his childhood in the Bay Area, where Zodiac's unfolding reign of terror was the subject of adults' hushed whispers, and his own captivated imagination. In an oblique way, Zodiac is an autobiographical and sentimental film for Fincher. A paean to a bygone, idyllic San Francisco whose innocence was shattered by the Zodiac murders.
Fuck, I'm done. Jesus. Tell me it's not a piece of bloody shit.
Sir, fuck! Oh, fucking crap!
I feel it in my bones. You ache to know my name, and so I'll clue you in. But then why spoil the game? Happy Halloween. Paul, you did call him a latent homosexual in at least one of your articles.
Dave, I want a gun.
Zodiac spans 3 decades of San Francisco history, using the sense of paranoia and panic that enveloped the city during his reign of terror as the chief focusing prism. The film centers around a triptych of leads in Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr., and Mark Ruffalo. The author of the film's source text, Robert Graysmith, is depicted by Gyllenhaal as a goody two-shoes Boy Scout and single father who throws himself into a downward spiral of obsession.
Dave Tosky sent you?
Yes.
Why?
Maybe he thought that I could do some good.
What are you, some kind of Boy Scout?
Eagle Scout, actually, first class.
His sweet-natured pluckiness is the antithesis of the hard-boiled, cynical detective archetype we've come to expect from these types of films.
How'd you know he was gonna send another code?
I just guessed.
Just guessed.
The first one seemed too easy.
This can no longer be ignored. What is that you're drinking?
It's an Aqua Velva. We wouldn't make fun of it if you tried it.
Downey, per usual, steals every scene he's in as the flamboyant, acid-witted Paul Avery.
Who is this guy?
He wishes to remain anonymous. I wish to remain infamous. So we're gonna get along great.
I've got Napo, Vallejo, and DOJ looking at me sideways, and Riverside's telling me I'm on a sniper.
Ruffalo more than holds his own as the detail-oriented police inspector in a bow tie, David Tosky, whose actions during the Zodiac case inspire the character of Dirty Harry. These 3 unconventional leads ooze period authenticity, captivating our attention for the entirety of Zodiac's marathon 3-hour running time. In Zodiac's supporting cast, Fincher has assembled an unexpected and truly eclectic mix of fine character actors. John Carroll Lynch plays Arthur Lee Allen, the prime suspect in Tosky and Graysmith's investigation.
He also said that you made statements about killing school children.
I'm not the Zodiac. And if I was, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
Lynch assumes an inherently creepy demeanor that, at the same time, is not overtly threatening. Lynch understands that he has a huge obligation in playing Allen responsibly, since the storyline effectively convicts Allen posthumously as the Zodiac.
Hello, Arthur. Remember us?
When the Zodiac killer is seen on screen, you might notice that it's not actually Lynch playing the role. Fincher wisely uses a different actor for each on-screen Zodiac appearance as a way to further cloud the killer's true identity and abstain from implicating Allen further than the storyline already does. Additionally, this echoes actual survivor testimonies, which were riddled with conflicting and mismatching appearance descriptions.
Glenna said you were a cartoonist.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing at a gun range?
Reading. Get some more... You need some more napkins.
Indie queen Chloe Sevigny plays Melanie, Graysmith's second wife who grows increasingly alienated by his Zodiac obsession as the years pass. As local San Francisco television celebrity Melvin Belli, Brian Cox oozes a professorial confidence and gravitas.
You sound like you're in a great deal of pain.
My head aches. I'm so sick. Oh, I'm gonna kill them.
Elias Koteas plays Sergeant Molinax, an embattled Vallejo police chief, while Dermot Mulroney plays Toski's own chief, Captain Marty Lee. P.T. Anderson Company regular Philip Baker Hall appears as Sherwood Morrill, an esteemed handwriting analyst whose expertise is thrown into question as he succumbs to an escalating alcohol problem. Comedian Adam Goldberg appears in a small role as Duffy Jennings, Avery's sarcastic replacement at the Chronicle. And eagle-eyed Fincher fanatics will also spot the presence of Zach Grenier, who played Edward Norton's boss in Fight Club.
Shoot him, yeah?
He stops, puts it in park, boom.
I shoot him on the right side. He slumps right.
Maybe you've got your hand on his collar when you shoot.
All right, so either way, I just dumped a quart of blood in the front seat.
So why do you get in the front seat?
For the money.
But he's dead. You could just reach over the seat, pull out his wallet. You don't have to go anywhere near the blood. So why do you get in the front seat?
What sets Zodiac apart from other thrillers of its ilk is its dogged attention to detail. Fincher and Vanderbilt built their story using only the facts, gathered from a mix of eyewitness testimony, authentic police documentation, and forensics evidence. The film doesn't depict any murder sequence in which there weren't any survivors, since the dead obviously can't provide accurate details about what went down. Another differentiating aspect of the film is the passage of time being utilized as a major theme, conveyed not just by on-screen X months or years later subtitles, but also by inspired vignettes, like a changing cityscape or music radio montages over a black screen.
A generation of hostility and the launch
has now led to the death of 50,000 Americans and several hundred thousand Vietnamese.
Zodiac's focus lies in the maddening contradiction of factual accounts that stymied real-life investigators and led to missed clues and dead-end leads. The true identity of the Zodiac was never solved, and the film goes to painstaking lengths to show us exactly why that was the outcome. Zodiac attempts to deconstruct the larger-than-life myth of its namesake, but it also can't help exaggerating him in our own cultural consciousness as the serial killer who got away. A modern boogeyman like Jason or Freddy that transcends the constraints of time and could pop up again at any time to resume his bloody campaign.
Don't get up. I want her to tie you up.
Zodiac is a very important film within Fincher's filmography in that it marks a drastic shift in his style, ushering in a reinvigorated second act fueled by the rise of digital filmmaking cameras that can match celluloid, pixel for crystal. Fincher's early adoption served as a tastemaker's vote of confidence in a fledgling technology, and substantially bolstered the rate of adoption by other filmmakers. Having shot several of his previous commercials on digital with Harris Savides, Fincher was confident enough that the digital cameras could meet the rigorous demands of his vision for Zodiac, and he subsequently enlisted Savides' experience as insurance towards that end. Shooting on the Thomson Viper Filmstream camera in 1080p and presenting in the 240:1 aspect ratio, Fincher is able to successfully replicate his signature aesthetic while substantially building on it with the new tools afforded him. Because of digital's extraordinary low-light sensitivity, Fincher and Savides confidently underexpose their image with high-contrast shadowy lighting, many times using just the available practical lights, which resulted in moody, cavernous interior sequences and bright, idyllic exteriors. Fincher is able to create something of a mundane, workaday look that stays within his established color palette of yellow warm tones and blue-teal cold casts. The procedural, methodical nature of the story is echoed in the observational, objective camera movement and editing. Fincher's dolly and techno-crane work is deliberate and precise, as is every cut by Angus Wall in his first solo editing gig for Fincher after co-editing several of his previous features. Wall's work was certainly cut out for him, judging by Fincher's well-documented insistence on doing as many takes as required in order to get the performance he wanted. Zodiac is quite simply one of the most realistic and authentic-looking period films ever made, thanks to Donald Graham Burt's meticulous production design. Burt and Fincher aren't after a stylized, exaggerated vintage look like P.T. Anderson's Boogie Nights, but rather a lived-in, well-worn, and low-key aesthetic. Fincher's borderline obsessive attention to historical detail extended as far as flying in trees via helicopter to make the Lake Berryessa locale look just as it did at the time. Practical solutions like this were augmented by clever, well-hidden CGI and digital matte paintings that never call attention to themselves. For a film so predicated upon its own historical authenticity, however, Fincher acknowledges a surprising amount of artistic license taken with the film's story, compiling composites of characters and reimagining real-life events in a bid for a streamlined, clean narrative.
How can people be so heartless? How can people be so cruel?
In developing the film, Fincher initially didn't want to use a traditional score. Instead, he preferred a rich tapestry of popular period songs, radio commercials, and other audio recordings.
Have you considered the killer might be Paul Avery?
Frequently.
Toward that end, he used several different styles of music to reflect the changing decades, such as jazz, R&B, and psychedelic folk rock like Donovan's Hurdy-Gurdy Man, which takes on a pitch-black, foreboding feel when it plays over the film's opening sequence.
Here comes a roly-poly man, he's singing songs of love.
Once the film was well into post-production, Fincher's regular sound designer Ren Kleiss reportedly suggested that the film stood to benefit from original score during key moments. Fincher eventually agreed and reached out to David Shire, the composer of Alan J. Pakula's All the President's Men, a film that served as Zodiac's tonal influence. Shire's score is spare, utilizing minimal piano chords to create a brooding suite of cues that echo the film's sense of oblique danger and consuming obsession. The story of Zodiac is perfectly suited to Fincher's signature thematic fascinations. Architecture plays a big role here, with Fincher depicting San Francisco as a city in transition. He shows cranes on the skyline, holes in the ground waiting to be filled, and most famously, an impressionistic time-lapse of the Transamerica Tower's construction. This approach extends to his interiors, specifically the Chronicle offices, which slowly transform over the years from a beige bullpen of clacking typewriters and cathedral ceilings to a brighter workspace with low-slung tile ceilings and fluorescent light fixtures.
I can't tell if I wanted it to be Alan so bad because I actually thought it was him, or I just wanted all this to be over.
It's because you thought it was him. And I did too. You know what? Take some time off. Spend some time with your wife and the kids. Go to Candlestick. See a movie.
Nihilism, another recurring theme throughout Fincher's work, pervades the storyline and the actions of its characters. Because the characters are unable to solve the mystery and tie things up with a neat little bow, they either fall into an existential crisis about all their wasted efforts, or they simply lose interest and move on.
Do you know what the chances of us arresting someone are now? Too much time has gone by, okay? Too much of the evidence is lost. People get old, Robert, they forget. Now, I have been a cop for 25 years, murder police for 12. What do you do for a living?
You know what I do for a
You're a
living.
cartoonist.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying Zodiac was my job. It's not yours.
Fincher's exploration of film's inherent artifice is present here in very meta stylings. Film canisters and their contents become promising leads and clues, and the characters get to watch movies about themselves on the screen. Fincher makes a big show of Toschi attending the Dirty Harry premiere, for instance. Zodiac's unique tone and subtext is perfectly indicative of Fincher's sensibilities as an artist. Zodiac bowed at the Cannes Film Festival to great reviews, its praise echoed by a cabal of prominent critics stateside. They hailed it as a masterpiece and Fincher's first truly mature work as a filmmaker, the implication being that the maverick director was ready to join the Oscar pantheon of great filmmakers. While the film is criminally overlooked by the Academy in all aspects, time has revealed Zodiac as one of the best films of the decade, and undoubtedly one of Fincher's grandest achievements.